What's up, everybody? Thomas Claxton here, and you guys are tuned in to the Sitting In with Thomas Claxton podcast. This is your stop for the behind-the-scenes dive straight into the heart of the music industry. Here, I interview some of the world's best in multiple fields, ranging from performers to producers and engineers, manufacturer CEOs, technologists, entrepreneurs, representative firms, technicians, attorneys, CPAs, and much more to give you guys an insider's perspective. The advice, the road stories, and the insider's point of view on an industry and where its future lies. It's all right here. And remember, if you guys like what you see, like, share, and subscribe. You guys sit back and enjoy. Thanks a lot. I'm sad, though. Summer NAMM is my favorite.
Yeah, it is a good time.
Yeah, I'm missing
that concert.
What's that? Especially
the concert.
Oh, I know, man. Hey, you know what, though, dude? Next year, we're going to come at it hard. I swear to you. We're going to have a blast.
Ignition sequence start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, hello, Joel Menchey.
How you doing, Thomas?
Oh, I'm okay, man. You know, just kind of rolling with things. I mean, that's pretty much all we can do right now. Go where the wind may carry us, and let that be that. I don't know about you, but that's what I've been doing.
That's the approach I'm taking.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people have been asking me, what's coming up next, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I can't even believe anybody's asking anybody that. Yeah. I don't think anybody really knows what's coming up next. But it might be interesting, but they're also exciting times. So, in my opinion, let's see what happens.
Exciting, mostly in good ways, but sometimes somewhat terrifying ways. But yeah,
there's a couple things I would change right now. A little, eliminate some of the unrest, eliminate a virus, but that's okay. Other than that, I mean, the rest of it's great.
Exactly.
But for our listeners out there who are just tuning in with us, this might be the first time you've caught the podcast. If not, if you've been a fan of the show, today we have the one and only Joel Menchey. Joel is the president and owner of Menchey Music Service, and also on the NAMM board. So we've got a heck of a guest for you guys today, and so Joel, tell the listeners at home, man, a little bit about yourself, and kind of enlighten them to the presence that is Joel Menchey.
Sure. Well, thanks, Thomas, and thanks for the opportunity to be on this podcast. It's an honor. I am the owner, as you said, the owner and president of Menchey Music Service. We're a school music dealer, H-store school music dealer with locations in Pennsylvania and Maryland, 5 in PA, 3 in Maryland. And for those of you who don't know what a school music dealer is, that's a music dealer that specializes in school service. We actively work with music educators, both in the public and private sectors. And we've been doing it for 84 years.
Wow.
Obviously, I didn't found it. It's a sort of between a second and a third generation business. My grandfather founded it in 1930.
I was about to say, dude, you look great.
I age great, don't I? Now, my grandfather founded it, and then it skipped generation, and I bought the business in 1995. So it's a neat business. Obviously, being in the music industry has a pretty decent cool factor, but getting to work with beginners and kids really is a treat and very gratifying work.
Well, that's got to be fulfilling.
It really is. It really is. A couple of years ago, we expanded and bought a company in Philadelphia called Northeastern Music Programs, which essentially provides the teaching. What would normally be done in the public schools provides the teaching in the Catholic school system in Philadelphia. And that's been an interesting business model. We've certainly worked with teachers for decades, but actually having them on staff and literally being on the front lines of recruiting new kids in all these 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade Catholic band and orchestra programs, it's a lot of fun. So,
well, that's where it starts, man. I mean, that's a subject that really hits home for me, because that was my beginning. Got started on it at an early age. Studied classical music. Of course, I was in chorus. My parents wouldn't let me join the band.
Oh, really?
They didn't think I would stick with it. Little did they know.
We have a lot of parents like that, and we love when their kids pleasantly surprise them. We assume pleasantly surprise them. They stick with it, and they end up, playing, all through high school. Sure.
So let's see. Some of the locations you guys have got. You mentioned you got 8 of them, correct? So,
5 in Pennsylvania. Hanover is where we're headquartered. That's where we have a store and our operations center. That's where I am now. The other 4 stores in PA are York, Lancaster, Harrisburg, and Reading. So we tend to at least in Pennsylvania, we focus on smaller markets. In Maryland, we have stores in Westminster, Maryland, which is a fairly small market, and then Timonium, which is north of Baltimore, and then a store in Anne Arundel County, which is down closer to Annapolis, which is the state capital.
Man, I love Lancaster.
Do you? You've been there?
Oh yeah, man. That's it's not too far, right around the Amish country there.
It is. Have you played gigs there?
No, I haven't played gigs. Some places, Joel, I swear to you, because I do a lot of traveling and performing and stuff like that. I have a blast with it, but there's some places that I only go to just to relax, and that's one of them. Like,
really?
Oh yeah, like what I'll do is I'll play Philly, but then I'll drive a little bit out of the way, go chill out for a day or two on my trip, in Lancaster, because I love to see the covered bridges. And one of my favorite restaurants is not too far from there. It's not officially in Lancaster, but there's a place out there called Oregon Dairy.
Okay.
Man, that's one of the most amazing buffets I've ever eaten in my life, because it's like traditional Amish style and everything. And oh my God, it's so worth driving an hour and a half out of the way to go to, because put it in perspective. I'm down here in Savannah, Georgia, so to me, an hour and a half once you're already up there is nothing. Seeing as how I'm almost 11 hours from it, so I better do it while I'm that close.
Lancaster really is a hidden gem. As you pointed out, it's very close to Philadelphia, and it has train access to Philadelphia, New York, and north of that. So very convenient place. It's pretty progressive, and we like that market.
Oh man, it's a whole. The thing is, when you grow up where I grew up, going into those areas, it's like a night and day kind of thing. As I grew up about an hour outside of Savannah, so seeing the countryside and the farming communities is nothing new to me, but it feels different in certain areas than it does down here. So that's kind of why I take the time, even if I'm not performing in a location, to go and see certain things, because I decided a while back that I wanted to be one of those guys who could actually say they kind of took the time and soaked all the experiences in, because I talk to so many performers that while they're traveling, they don't really take that time. It all kind of, it's in and it's gone in a flash, and then they don't really remember a whole lot of it, because all they were doing was one place to another day after day, so when I book my stuff, I try to go, a couple days here and there. I don't try to book it one after the other. That way I can enjoy the country. The United States is a beautiful country,
It really is, and you have to let me know the next time you're in Philadelphia, because that's a hop, skip, and a jump away. So.
Yeah, you're not far from Philly. So like whenever I play Philly, the last couple times I've been there was at the Hard Rock Cafe, and Grammy Award winner and Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Michael Hampton, who played guitar for George Clinton's Parliament Funkadelic.
Okay.
He comes out and plays that gig with me. So the two of us have like a little acoustic duo thing that we do at the Hard Rock there. So next time I'm out, I'll definitely give you a call, man. You got to bring your guitar with you. That's the only catch. You got to play.
Okay.
Yeah, all right?
Will do.
No, man, I can't remember that. Remember what song did we do when I was on stage with you and the guys, Zach and Alan and them? It was Ice Cream Man, wasn't it?
Oh, yes.
And
I'll play that with you in Philadelphia.
Heck yeah, man, we're gonna do it. Absolutely. So, so if I read correctly, tell me if I'm wrong, but you're a graduate of Temple University. You got a degree in finance and business management. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and see, that's a really cool aspect that I want on this podcast, because when I put the podcast together, I said, there's a lot of typical music podcasts. They just talk about what's on the radio today, that type of stuff. But I wanted this one to be sort of something for up and coming, people in the industry, whether they be performers or whether they're interested in going into the business side of it, because I'm a firm believer that more people don't get further in this industry because they don't understand the business aspect of it.
I agree.
There's a whole nother section. I would say performance is actually a minimal part of this industry, and a lot of people don't understand that. So, I mean, having that background in finance and business management, for those listening, how do you feel like that affected you in the industry going into choosing to be a business owner?
Well, it really wasn't the college background as much. When I graduated in 1990, I got a job as a financial analyst, and they threw me in the fire with, projections and, pension fund analysis and all that cool stuff. I fell in love with spreadsheets in my first 5 years of school.
That must have been a heck of a relationship.
Absolutely, yes. We go way back. But that's really what gave me the background. I mean, certainly the college background helped, but it was that first 5-year period that really sort of got me started with the whole business track. And about halfway through that 5-year experience, I started playing my acoustic guitar out in the bars of Lancaster and York and Baltimore. All of a sudden, the two opportunities sort of collided, and I found out my grandfather's business. My grandfather had retired in 1982, and he had sold the business. He sold 50% of the business to his management team. I had very little to do with it during that first 5-year period, and I learned that there was no succession plan. And I was playing guitar. I was in business, and thought this might be the perfect marriage. So I contacted him, and he said, well, you need to talk to so-and-so who's currently running it. So I did, and it took me about, a year and a half, and ended up buying it in 1995, and never looked back. It's been, as I said, it's been a great marriage of interest in music and interest in business.
Well, that's awesome to hear, because that's promising, because I think what winds up happening, especially with a lot of folks, is the first thing that pops into mind is performing. I want to be a rock star, basically. Mm-hmm. But then a lot of them, when they feel like that doesn't work out, they feel like their opportunities in music have just dried up and gone away, and that's very untrue. I mean, there's so many opportunities if music is really what you want to do, and you're living proof of that.
One of the things I always thought, particularly in my first job, was, I wanted to be a rock star, Thomas. I mean, I love getting up on stage and playing, but I never wanted to lose that love for playing.
That's right.
So I thought, if I can do enough of this on the side to satisfy that desire to play, and then support myself, primarily support myself in some other way, that might be the best way to do it. I don't know. I have friends who have made wonderful careers out of playing and recording albums, and it seems like a great life too, but
it's got its ups and downs. The worst thing about, I think, performing out live and making that your full-time thing is, man, that day-to-day living. It gets tough after a little while, even if you're responsible with money.
Yes.
At some point you're sinking everything you make back into your career, and it's like a vicious cycle. And yeah, you get those experiences, but very few of them actually get the stability.
Well, I think unfortunately, if you're out by yourself or with your band playing 24/7, sure, you meet lots of people, but you're not exposed to people in the business world who can teach you skills like saving money and planning for a future and all those things. So there's probably a real need there. You hear about all these rock stars, particularly now, the ones who can't perform, who are starting to realize their financial challenges. There's a need there for artists to learn those skills, those life skills.
Oh, absolutely. So let's see here. You were also the past president of the RPMDA and the NASMV. Is that correct?
Yes.
And for the listeners at home, can you tell people what those are?
Sure. So RPMDA stands for Retail Print Music Dealers Association, and that's an organization of about, I want to get the number right, I'm going to say 200 companies, music publishers and music retailers who have a focus on print music. So band arrangements, songbooks, method books, choral music, etc. And for many years, Menchey Music was a big player in the print business in all of those segments. Recently, we've trimmed back. We're for the most part out of the choral business, but we have piano and band and orchestra music and pop, and that was a great organization. Some really great people in RPMDA. That's where I met. That's where I really got to know Alan Friedman, a mutual friend of ours.
Alan.
Yeah, and really helped me. That really exposed me to a number of new faces in the industry. So I spent, I was on the board for 8 or 9 years, 3 years as a board member at large, and then a 6-year officer track. And then shortly after that, joined the board of NASMV. And that was very similar, a 6-year officer track, but only a 1-year board member at large. So I had this I guess 13, 14-year run of a bunch of acronyms,
sure.
School music and print.
NASMD stands for?
I'm sorry, National Association of School Music Dealers.
There we go.
And very, a lot of the same people, but it was a different mission.
Sure.
So, but yeah, both great experiences. Met lots of wonderful people, and really enjoyed myself in both of those positions. What's really gratifying is to leave those boards and watch how the successors, the next class of officers runs those organizations. And there have been some real rock stars in both organizations currently really doing a great job and doing some really innovative things.
Sure. So speaking of Alan Friedman, so how long have you known Alan?
I met Alan over the phone in 1995, and I had a question about a business plan or something. I needed some industry validation, like the number of school music or the number of music dealers, or I can't remember what it was. And what I thought was going to be about a 5-minute conversation, knowing Alan,
there's no way that happened.
I missed lunch. We talked the entire way to about 1:30, 1:45, and it was great. I mean, we spoke the same language. We both loved numbers, and I went to, so we hung up the phone, went to a conference or a seminar that he was presenting, and same thing, picked up right where we left off, and of course we discovered that the other one, we played guitar, and really it's been a wonderful relationship. He's a super guy. He's become a real friend.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is, I remember the first time I met Alan because, and for those of you who don't know, Alan Friedman was a past guest on the podcast, and he is the owner of Friedman Cannonberg CPA company up in Connecticut, correct? Connecticut, that's right. And but when you know Alan, or when you meet Alan, it's like you never not know him.
Yeah.
I mean, immediately when you click, and that's just the way it is. And you could have been talking to him for 5 minutes, and you feel like you've known him 50 years.
And the problem with that is everybody he's ever met feels that way.
Yes.
So and I'm joking, but as you walk through the trade show floor, it takes hours just because when you're with him, because he stops to talk to everybody he knows, and it's never a short conversation. So, we joke. I think I've probably joked with you. It just takes forever to make your way across the floor.
Two people have that at NAMM every year. It's three. I'll say is him, Ron Beanstalk, and Bernie Williams.
Yes.
Bernie's got it on two different fronts, though, because people know him from NAMM and they know him from the music industry. But then, man, if they were a baseball fan,
yes.
Forget it. Bernie came down to Savannah and played the Savannah Jazz Festival a while back. He was there with Howard Paul. And, so Bernie called me up and he's like, hey, man, I'm going to be here all afternoon. I need a tour guide, basically. So I was like, okay, cool. So I took him down to River Street and showed him some of the historic sites there in Savannah, because Savannah's a beautiful little town.
Beautiful town.
And I swear to you, what normally should have taken about 30 minutes to take a walk took nearly 3 hours, because every 5 feet somebody was stopping Bernie. And that was in Savannah. Bernie played for the New York Yankees. So, the fact that so many, folks down here in the Atlanta Braves territory,
yes,
were stopping Bernie and wanting pictures and everything. And I found myself actually being one of those guys, like you see the rock stars coming out and they got that guy in front of them that goes, okay, excuse me, he's got somewhere to be, that kind of stuff. I was having to filter people. So yeah, I get exactly what you're saying about Alan there. And you and Alan have a very successful and fun band called Prince.
It is fun. Success probably relative.
No, it is. Look, success is subjective, my friend. I mean, just because somebody's not the Beatles doesn't mean they weren't successful.
No, we have a blast. So so you asked me about RPMDA. The name of the band is Prince, Printz, and the history of that name is in, I'm going to say, 99, 2000, 2001, when I was on the RPMDA board. We were in Dallas and we had a talent show, and we had a lot of individual musicians who wanted to play, but they needed a backup band. Sure. So we created this house band, and it was Alan, me, Chris Scalfa, David Yankee, I think Ed Lyon was a member at the time, Zach, and all the band. And we had a blast, and everybody in the audience had a blast, and that conference was in April. Well, about a month before Summer NAMM, Alan caught wind that there was this performance opportunity at this place called The Hang, which is now part of the stadium, or the Bridgestone Arena.
Sure.
And yes, and of course we decided we'd do it, so we needed a name. So we decided to call ourselves Prince, the band formerly known as the Retail Print Music Dealers House Band. So
it's a brilliant name. I mean, I cannot tell you how many times I've been on the NAMM floor and somebody said Prince is playing tonight, and I swear to you, I remember the year when Prince passed away. Unfortunately, the actual Prince, and somebody said that Prince was playing at the NAMM show. And I've watched some guy he gave this other guy a look. He goes, dude, that's not funny. It's not funny whatsoever, okay? I was a big fan, and I don't appreciate you making a mockery of it. And he's like, no, you don't understand.
Different Prince. But out of respect, we always play one Prince song every gig.
You guys do Kiss?
We do Kiss all the time. We've done Let's Go Crazy. We've done Purple Rain. When Doves Cry. We've done a number of them.
And some of the band names that Alan has thrown at me I'm just like, good Lord. I mean, where he comes up with some of this stuff, and I don't know who came up with the name Prince, but, which one of you guys did that?
I don't know.
You don't know? It just kind of popped up one day?
Yeah. I forget it, but it's stuck, and we're not changing it.
Well, so your band, like I said, you guys are a mainstay at the NAMM show. Whenever I get there, one of my favorite things is to go catch you guys at your set, usually in the Marriott, or is it the Hilton?
Hilton.
Hilton, that's right.
We played the Marriott a couple of years, but the Hilton, a little bit bigger stage, and
sure. So it's always a blast, So let's see. So I know you were telling me how you got into the business aspect of it, but so I know you said in the beginning, you said, yeah, I wanted to be a rock star. Mm-hmm. So at what age did that bug hit? When did it become obvious that music in general was the future?
Well, I started when I was a youngster. I started on piano, and then I played flute in the band, which was my dad's idea. My dad played flute, and he encouraged me to play a small instrument because it was easier to carry back and forth to school.
It worked for Jethro Tull.
I could have, yeah. So I did that. I quit too early. I think 8th grade I quit playing flute, and started playing guitar in 9th grade. And that's when it really hit. And you know how it is, Thomas. You
sure.
struggle with those chords and the scales for the first 6 months, and you just keep doing. And all of a sudden, it clicks, and something you play sounds exactly like a song you heard back then on the radio, and all of a sudden it just kind of clicks, and then you've been bitten by the bug, and from that point on, everything I did was music. And
some folks don't understand the bug, man. They don't get it, and it's like, that's why I can't stand when I see some people, they'll see some of the older performers, the ones from yesteryear, they're putting out the hits, and they're like, man, when's that guy going to retire? And I'm like, it doesn't work like that, dude. Mm-hmm. You don't just one day decide, I'm done with music. Yeah. It's not, you retire from a factory job, okay? You don't retire from being an artist. That bug never goes away, in my opinion. You might cut back on your live performances or whatnot, but I think you're born an artist. I think you die an artist. That's the way it works.
And there are periods, and I'm going through one now, where I'm not playing as much, even in my house, as much as I'd like to. But it's that 10,000 hour rule. You play 10,000 hours, and you can take a 3-month hiatus, pick it back up, and back in business.
And see, that's the downside from my situation of doing it for a full-time career, is because sometimes you find yourself, like, oh my God, I got to take a break. Yeah. I'm getting worn out on this. It's just night in and night out, stage after stage, and it's like, oh boy. So being able to do it like you're doing it, though, you're running your business and you're playing music out of sheer enjoyment. Mm-hmm. And that's something that some guys who do it full time miss.
Well, yeah, and that's a good point. One of the nice things is, since I got married and had kids, don't have much time to play out. But because I have, another way to support myself, I've been able to pick and choose the gigs. And I don't smoke, and since I stopped, playing 4 or 5 nights a week, I've been able to pick the non-smoking bars, which is really nice.
And are there still ones that allow smoking?
There are. Actually, in Pennsylvania, there are some funky laws that allow certain bars to open.
That's a no-no.
Problem. I'll bet I took years off my life back in my 20s when I would play these bars.
I know, I can relate.
And now I wouldn't step foot in one. And some of those bars are great. Wood floors and low ceilings and just great acoustics. But I just won't do it. So.
Well, it changed around here where I live. Man, it's probably been over 10 years now since that became a law. But and I look back on it now and I'm like, man, I can't even believe that was a thing. Because, and I'm a very not to go in any kind of political term here or nothing like that, but I'm a very firm believer of, let a private business do what the private business wants to do, and if the people want to do business there, then that's their choice, So, but this was one that this is one level of regulation that I wasn't really opposed to. Yeah. It was like, oh man, because I'm an asthmatic to start off with. Now, it doesn't hit me like it does a lot of people who suffer from asthma, luckily, so I don't usually have a problem with it. But I remember I was playing a venue, probably about 20 minutes from where I live, give or take. It's not quite in Savannah, but close to it. And this place had like no ventilation system. Like the only thing they had was the back door that would get opened up, and that was about it. And I just never thought anything of it. it was just one of those things, you know. And I went home one day after playing this place, you know, 1 or 2 nights a week, you know, for several months. And I went home and I started having a coughing fit, and I coughed up something that looked black. And I was like, yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
So I went back in there and I told the owner, I said, look, bro, I love you. I do. But I don't smoke. I don't do any drugs. I don't even drink your alcohol or nothing like that because it's just not my thing. I said, but getting lung cancer before 30 does not sound appealing to me. And I got to do something different, man. I just can't do it anymore. And then all of a sudden they passed that law down here in Southeast Georgia, and, you know, and the rest was history. And now every time I walk back into a certain place, it's like, oh, man. Can't even stand it. But you're right, though. Some of those places were crazy, man. They give you some good stories to tell over the years. You know, but so what year did you become involved with NAMM? And for those people who are not familiar with NAMM, that's the National Association of Music Merchants, largest music merchants convention in the entire world, with 2 main conventions happening every year, one in Anaheim, California, one in Nashville. And what year was that for you when NAMM came knocking?
Well, my first, I assume you mean the board position. My first exposure to NAMM.
Your first intro to NAMM?
My first intro was in 95. In January of 96, technically, my first year in the business. Actually, that's not true. I went to NAMM in July. I went to Summer NAMM in July of 95 and thought, this is great. You know, I was in Nashville, and then I went to Winter NAMM, and it's, you know, 10 times larger. And at least I think at the time, and that's when I loved it. I loved the gear, of course. You know, you can't make your way around the entire floor. But you know, so I did that. I enjoyed it, and then I had an invitation to join the board in 2005, I think, and that was either 2005 to 8 or 7 to 10. I think it was 7 to 10 because it was during the financial crisis.
Okay.
And
so you went in an interesting time period there. You went through that financial crisis.
Yes. And it was a great experience. And as someone explained to me, Steve West from West Music called me. He was part of the nominating committee, and he called, and I asked him. I said, why should I do this, Steve? And I like Steve a lot. I'd like to give him a hard time, even back then. And he said, you know, you'll get to meet some really great people on a different level than you'd ever have another opportunity to meet them. And he was right. That really was the main reason. And I made some great contacts. Got to learn about NAMM, and what you think you know about NAMM is very different from what NAMM really does.
Way different.
Before you get on the board, you think NAMM is just a great trade show, and it is. But when you get on the board and you learn about the advocacy and the professional development and all the things under the hood, you really, it's eye-opening. And it's funny, you know, in my first run for that 3-year period, there was a committee structure on the board. So we really got to do deep dives in certain areas and learn about, you know, certain segments like market development or, you know, this or that. It was, you know, Paul Hyde described it as educating the industry 8 people at a time. So every class had 8 people. So I did that board member at large term, loved it. Also had the opportunity to do the NAMM fly-in, which is a wonderful experience. Again, something that a lot of people don't, I guess actually now they do realize that it's a thing because NAMM has promoted it so heavily and there's been such a great need, but it's this opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. and lobby for music education. And NAMM has a wonderful relationship with Nelson Mullins, which is our lobbying firm, and they teach us how to be good advocates. And in fact, we're in the middle of a virtual ask right now. We didn't have our physical fly-in this May, so we're doing it virtually. but it gives us the opportunity as advocates to talk to our elected officials and affect change. And one of the things that I'm particularly proud of, that NAMM's particularly proud of, is in the rewrite of it's called the Every Student Succeeds Act, but it was the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. We were able to add music as a core curriculum component.
Oh, that's awesome.
For a well-rounded education. So that was a great thing, and I credit obviously Joe Lalonde's leadership for really staying the course, but particularly Mary Lurson, who really has just been
I love Mary.
Tireless advocate for this mission, and really, that's been a great effort, and it's a marathon. I mean, we're constantly going back and staying in front of the elected officials. So yes, they in Washington and now at the state levels, they know who we are. We are relevant in the space. So that's been a wonderful opportunity. And then finally, my XCOM executive committee role started in July of 2015. And that is a slightly different track. I don't know if a lot of people understand how this works, so I'll give you the 60-second elevator.
Sure.
So when you are you're elected to the board, there are nominations, and then you're part of a group, and the current board will then hone down the list of nominees, and then the membership will vote on you. And that's when you get the board members at large, and you go through 3 years of that, and then you term out. Executive committee is a little different. You have to have prior experience on the board, and you have to be willing to make the commitment on the 4-person executive committee, and that is the chair, vice chair, treasurer, and secretary, plus Joe Lalonde, or whoever the CEO is of the NAMM. Sure. And that's an 8-year commitment. So it's a big commitment, but it really gives you a perspective on the industry that you would not otherwise get. And I guess I'll be chair in about 13 months.
13 months, okay.
Yeah.
So your official title now is vice chair, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I tell you, that's going to be awesome, man. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Heck yeah, man. That's NAMM really had a huge impact on my career, and I know that NAMM is not necessarily centered around performers. It is and it isn't. You know what I mean? It's for the dealers and the merchants, and I totally get that. But that the first NAMM I went to changed my life, and I would gladly tell anybody that. And I haven't been going nearly as long as some people. I spoke with Scott Page from Pink Floyd, who told me he's been going now for over 50 years, and I was like, good Lord, bro. Okay, great. I didn't. But I remember I got my first invite to go to NAMM. My friend Paul Cooper, who's the director of operations for Gretsch Drums, he and I have a band back here in Savannah together. And so he told me, because I told him that, a lot of folks had told me that, it would be a good career move to go to NAMM. He said, okay, well, I'll get you a pass in the NAMM this year if you can get out to LA. So I was like, yeah, man, I'm down. Haven't looked back.
Yeah.
And then I found out, like you mentioned, Ms. Mary Larson earlier, I found out about the NAMM Foundation, and that hit me, really close to home, because I grew up in a very small community, and where I grew up, it was one of those types of communities where it was sports or nothing. It was like you're not legit unless you're on the baseball team or the football team. But I was lucky though to be in a school that had a music team, which was run by Lauren Ringwald in the choral department, and Rudy Gilbert and Lindy Sykes in the band department. And they took their jobs very seriously, and they took those high school kids and middle school kids, and they, basically, figuratively speaking, whipped us into shape, and got us out there doing competitive things. And we were, going from all states and honors and things like that, and, working the way up. So music education to me is something that I think is absolutely necessary today. The world is so much better, you know, when you know, clearly you have young people that are interested in learning about fine arts and things like that. So the fact that NAMM does all these things, and the NAMM Foundation, you know, moves forward and goes out there and lobbies for these things is so impactful. And I really wish that more people knew about it. Seriously.
Well, you know, clearly, I mean, we haven't gotten everybody, but what is very gratifying is when you have an unfortunate situation, like a school threatens to cut a program, the message has gotten out that making music is good for these kids.
Absolutely.
And when something like that happens, something unfortunate happens, and school boards, for whatever reason, either because of lack of funding or whatever, want to cut a program, parents just come out of the woodwork. I mean, absolutely. It's gotten to the point where we just kind of give them scripts and let them run with it, just so they can most efficiently and effectively save the programs. But it's powerful, and I do give a lot of that credit to NAMM. I mean, NAMM's been beating this drum for 25 years. And it's funny, you know, when you describe NAMM, you talk about the trade show and that's such an obvious part of what NAMM does. But equally important, NAMM's a membership organization.
Sure.
I mean, we have thousands of members, retail and manufacturer and associate, and the member services component is such an important part of it. You know, the professional development, the advocacy, the market development, you know, the membership services, all these neat things. So it's a really cool organization. And as I said, the more educating the industry, 8 people at a time. So if I would encourage anyone who has an interest in pursuing that NAMM board track, it's certainly it's been a great experience.
Well, you say 8 people at a time, but that's, to me, man, that one person, it only takes one person to make some change. And a lot of people think you have to have these huge numbers to do something, you know, but just that one effort made by one person can mean the world of a difference, especially to kids these days that are growing up in in certain communities and things like that. You know, so again, huge fan of NAMM and the NAMM Foundation. Nothing but love for all you guys. I've gotten to know a lot of you, you know, especially some of you in particular, yourself and Joe Lamont, Zach Phillips, Brian Ottens. You know, all you guys are just amazing guys, and I think you know, I think the best is yet to come with NAMM and the NAMM Foundation. And but I tell you, you know, you brought up one thing before we move away from NAMM here. You said you never see it all in one day. That winter show, for those of you watching and listening right now, you have no idea how huge that thing is. Personally, I love both shows. I get something very different out of both of them. Yep. You know, that Nashville show, for an artist, is very personable. You can walk up, you got time to talk to your friends. You might run into each other like you and I have done in the hallway numerous times, you know, and have 10 minutes to speak to each other, and still have plenty of time left in the day to go and check out nearly every booth, because it's considerably smaller. I believe one year, and you can correct me on these numbers, and I know they're not specific, but I believe one year, like in comparison, like the winter show had over 100,000 people, and
last year was 115,000.
Right, 115, and the summer show had roughly 10,000.
It's more than 10, but yeah, it's definitely
But it's somewhere in that ballpark, just to show people how different of a size perspective it is, and going into the Anaheim convention, which, you know, as you stated, the conventions are only a part of NAMM, but you know, when you walk into that winter show and you see it for the first time, I mean, what you don't realize is, holy crap! I mean, this thing is enormous, but you're only standing in one room of it. You know, then you have like 4 or 5 other, holy crap, this is enormous rooms. And you could take the 4 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and you can get there from beginning until they move you off the floor, and you will not see everything in that show. It's next to impossible, you know, and it's much more fast-paced, you know, and people are doing their things, man. That's why whenever you and I have conversations, it's usually not in the middle of winter NAMM. Joel Menchey has many more important things to do.
We all do.
Right. Well, I mean, but in general, I mean, any of you guys that help put that thing together have way more important things to do than to just stop and have small talk here and there, but going back to January and to where we are today, things have changed. Things have changed dramatically. I mean, we are all living through something right now that none of us saw coming when we were all hanging out in January, sitting in a conversation in the hotel lobbies. I mean, clearly the COVID-19 pandemic has changed a lot of stuff. And, so that being the case, I mean, what kind of changes in the industry do you see, or that I know it's almost impossible to say definite, but what kind of changes are you seeing due to the pandemic, and where do you think the industry's heading after this?
Well, people have asked, where do you see this going in a year and in 5 years? And they've asked that for the last 25 years. Joel, give us your 1-year projection or your 5-year projection. This is the first time that the 5 is way easier than the 1.
Right.
We just don't know. I mean, and I'd like to think that within a year, we will be back in rebuilding stage, but it's hard to say. I mean, I have to believe, being a realist, that there will be some casualties in the industry.
Naturally.
But that could also create a whole different set of opportunities for people. And that's what's interesting about this industry. It's a very passionate industry, and there are probably people who come to that NAMM show every year who probably, from a fiscal responsibility standpoint, shouldn't be going, but they're there because they want to be there, because it's the only place you can go to get that stuff.
That's right.
And have that experience. And I'm hopeful, knock on wood, that once we get past this, and there will be some bruises, some deep bruises, that people will rise up and will be tenacious, and we'll figure it out and get back to it, because you don't want to be left out. A friend of mine is in the cutting tool business, and I'm sure he has a fun conference that he attends, but this is music. I mean, this is an industry where not only you can do your work, you can play a gig in front of your friends, and you can, it's passion. And I'd like to think that, yes, the short term is going to be a little difficult, but we'll get back to a place that is equally rewarding for hopefully as many people as possible.
Well, people persevere. That's one good thing about our kind, man. We all band together, and we try, and we come together somehow and get out of the most difficult situations, and we conquer things, in a lot of good ways. So hopefully this right here is not going to be any different. It'll be something that I think, takes adjustment, clearly. I mean, the level that it's changed. I went from my aspect of the business, I went from performing 5 and 6 nights a week, to I think I've literally played 3 dates in over 3.5 months. Wow. Right now. But there's been a plus side to that, like you and I were kind of, small talking about in the beginning. I mean, because it's also given me the downtime that I kind of needed, and now I'm finding myself kind of getting, back into got to get back on a stage, that kind of thing, and the drive has kind of come back, because it was just a time to relax. I bought some nails, I picked up a hammer, got a lot of the work around the house done, things like that I've been neglecting for way too long. And I had to adjust, my productivity, the way I do things, so I picked up obviously, a little harder on the podcast interviews, and I've been doing other types of Zoom meetings. I just did one for Gator Cases, the amazing Crystal Morris and that whole crew down there. Yeah. And, Crystal's been up a bit to me. Oh yeah, I love them. I mean, got to give a big shout out to Gator, who helps bring this podcast to everybody, every episode. So, but I've been finding ways to do that, and I've had a lot more time to write and things. And so, from an artist perspective, yeah, the gigs kind of slacked off, but it doesn't mean that the productivity slacked off. So.
But there could be an opportunity there. It's a perfect example. So nobody's playing live gigs. But how often do we want to see, usually because we're playing at the same time, how often do we miss our peers gigging and really want to see certain acts all the time? Maybe now there's a new opportunity to for all of us to create our own channels. So if I want to listen to Thomas Claxton some Friday night, either a night that you're not playing or a night that I'm in the car, I could turn on the Thomas Claxton radio hour and listen to it gigs. And, it could be recorded, it could be live.
I'm stealing that, by the way, the Thomas Claxton radio hour.
There you go.
I'll credit you for it, don't worry.
There could be all kinds of opportunities. Make Music Day was on June 21st. And last year, we had live performances at all of our stores. And this year, we did something a little different. We did, and not completely because of COVID-19, but because we had perfected our Zoom competency and our recording, the whole thing was done virtually. And we literally had this Menchey channel running all day of live musicians. We had store employees, we had teachers, we had students. It was awesome. And it took an event like this to teach us that, those new skills, to force us to learn those new skills.
And I think too, it's going to be very important, because I know what people tend to do, or not everybody, but a lot of people tend to, they'll gravitate towards something, and then when it goes back to normal, they just kind of, okay, forget about it, go back to their usual stuff. I think it's going to be important to not throw this stuff to the side, what we're doing now, but find a way to integrate that with what we remember, being the normal stuff, because this could happen again. And it's very important for people not to just throw this stuff that we've been learning for the past few months to the wayside. Agreed. I'm certainly not. I've been live streaming now for about the past 6 years, give or take. And of course, I've kind of kicked it up a little bit since this happened, clearly. But still, I'm definitely going to continue doing all that kind of stuff. And I think that's important. People just can't forget about everything like that, because what if it comes back? Or what if something different happens, a different situation? You just never know. But Joel, I've enjoyed having you here, man. You're amazing. Thank you very much for being on the Thomas Claxton podcast. And hopefully I don't know the situation yet, but hopefully Winter NAMM's going to come back strong. And I'm looking forward to seeing all of you guys very, very soon. And man, we got to do. I'm working on a music collaboration right now, like a little online thing where everybody records, their part and videotapes and everything. We mash all the videos together. You've seen those.
Sure.
And I'm working on one with Scott Page from Pink Floyd, Stephen Perkins, drummer for Jane's Addiction, Fabrizio Grossi, who played bass for Supersonic Blues Machine, Steve Lukather, Nita Hagen, people like that. Larry Mitchell, who's a regular performer at the NAMM show. Let's see, and Eric Frampton on the keyboards, and we're all doing a version of Us and Them by Pink Floyd. So,
oh, great song.
Yeah, man. So we got to talk to Alan, and we got to get Ron Beanstalk in on this, and I'll talk to Jonathan Mover. We got to get you on board. We'll talk to Zach. We got to do like our own little video collaboration.
We'd love to.
It'd be a total blast, man. But I'll stay in touch with you. And again, thank you very much. You've been an awesome guest.
Thank you, Thomas. It's been a great opportunity.
Oh man, you're awesome, brother. I will talk to you very soon. And folks, stay tuned for more episodes of the Sitting In with Thomas Claxton podcast. That'll be coming very, very, very soon. Thank you guys for being a part of it.